All right, there's a lot of baseball going on here, and not just Jays related. First and foremost, though, Dan Shulman joining us from Clearwater, Florida. Dan, look like $1 million. FaceTiming. Look at that.
On the FaceTime.
Freshly shaved and showered just
Look
for you.
at that.
Look at
Yes,
that, look at that.
ready for a night at TGI Fridays.
Where am I supposed to look? Up here, right?
You're looking fine. No, you're at proper eye level.
Am I right? Okay, good.
We're at proper forgive us level because there was an incident on social media. We just want to address this early on, Dan, so there's no awkwardness. So Tim, go ahead.
So earlier today, Dan Shulman at @DShulman_ESPN heading on Tim and Sid in a bit to talk Jays from Florida.
Nice
then
tweet.
followed it up by quoting his own tweet, Sydney. Now, if only they would throw me a bone and follow me on Twitter. Sid, I control the fate of this clicker. Put me back up, Matt, because this is about to be history.
Is it happening? Oh,
Is it happening right now?
I just pushed follow. Tim and Sid
Look at that. That's
are
unbelievable.
following now.
Unbelievable how that just happened.
To be fair to Sid and I, Dan, we were following you separately. It was
Right.
the Tim and Sid account that wasn't following you.
Right. That's fair. But you know, we're all one big happy family, and I've been following you guys for a long, long time, and I'm loyal, and
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of wrong of me to quote my own tweet, if that's the way of saying it. That seems like kind of a
No, we failed you.
No, you can't.
No, we
social
failed
media
you.
faux pas. But you guys
Yeah, we failed you.
Now, if only ESPN would follow me.
can't help you.
Can't help me there. I know. One miracle at a time, Dan. One miracle. We're going to get to the Jays. Mr. Shulman will be calling the Yankees and the
Have you
Jays.
seen the 6? They already have.
Well, okay, maybe. No need to comment, Dan, on that. Dan is in Clearwater. He'll be calling Jays and Yankees tomorrow on Sportsnet. So some Friday spring training action with Dan Shulman. It's going to be great. We're going to talk Jays in a second. The eyebrow raising, something I'm very familiar with, surrounding David Price, has been consistent throughout the game of baseball today, Dan. Obviously, nothing official yet in terms of the left elbow, but this is a guy, he's 31, massive contract, through an American League high in innings a year ago. The warning signs are just going off here. What's your general take on what we learned today?
Well, when you hear forearm and James Andrews in the same sentence, it doesn't lead to good things, generally speaking. And this would be a big loss, obviously, for the Red Sox. It's kind of odd to me when a pitcher comes into camp and feels this or has this. You would think this is the kind of thing that would blow out in July or August of a season when he's already really been getting after it. But you don't want to speculate too much. It could be minor. It could be Tommy John. Really, nobody has any way of knowing. If it's major and he's lost for the season, that's a big loss for the Red Sox. Now, the cupboard is not bare. They've got Chris Sale and Rick Porcello and Eduardo Rodriguez and Drew Pomeranz and Stephen Wright. And I know Price wasn't vintage David Price last year, but he's still an innings eater. And I got to believe he was going to be better in year 2 than year 1 if he's healthy. So this would be a big loss for the Red Sox.
And I don't want to walk down the road too much because I don't want you to have to speculate about a guy being lost for the year. But would you still classify, if we just took David Price out of their starting rotation, would you still classify them as the favorites in the American League East or even the American League?
I think in the American League East, I think I would. If you take David Price away, I'm kind of in toss-up mode between Red Sox and Indians for best team in the American League, and I think if Price is out, and I want to see what Michael Brantley's situation is for the Indians, but I think the Indians would be the best team. I still would have the Red Sox as the favorite in the East. I would have the Blue Jays second, but I would have the gap much smaller than it was 24 hours ago. And for the Blue Jays, they can win the division. They can be a playoff team. But a lot of things, as we know, are going to have to go right. The rotation will have to be healthy again. A healthy Bautista would be terrific, obviously, if he could put up the numbers from 3-4 years ago. The bullpen, they've made a lot of changes, bringing in Smith and Howell, veteran guys who didn't have their best years last year. Can they bounce back and have a decent year this year? So I see more ifs more maybes for the Blue Jays this year than a year ago. That's not to say they can't win the division, but I still think the Red Sox are the favorite, but the gap's narrowed a little bit if Price is out long term.
Dan,